I'm the only one here.
Hi, Lori.
Hey, Carrie.
Hi, Lori.
Hi.
I'm on the other side of the table.
Okay. I'm like, where is she?
We're practicing safe social distancing.
Side, as we've seen on the international side, sort of rallied our NATO and foreign alliances around certain issues.
There we go. Hi, Nate. As you connect to your audio.
Hi, Nate.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. How's it going, Lori?
Oh, just living the dream out here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. As you can see, I'm working in my car to do this.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it was so close to being able to get back to the hotel on time that I'm like, yeah, I don't want to take that chance.
Oh, you poor thing. I feel like you're always doing meetings in your vehicle.
Not always, but this week I'm actually working for another community doing a tree inventory up here in Sackett's Harbor.
Where are you?
Sackett's Harbor.
Oh. I think I've only seen you working in a meeting in your car.
I'm thinking so too, Sue. Yeah. It's quite often lately, it seems like. I'm hoping this winter it will be better, so I won't be traveling quite as much.
Hopefully.
But I have to say, Sackett's Harbor is beautiful. So if anybody needs to get away, it's an amazing little village. It's really cute.
Oh, good to know.
I'm learning a lot about the War of 1812 up here.
Yeah, there's a lot of history up there, huh?
Oh, amazing. I mean, we took an hour-and-a-half lunch yesterday. Well, the one girl I'm training, she's a little bit new and she's a little frustrated. I'm like, let's go for a walk. And we walked through these old barracks up at Fort Volunteer. There's 3 forts here, or old forts. There used to be forts here. And just the buildings were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And even today, she kept working. I was just like, where'd you go? I'm like, there's another fort up here. I went and checked it out for 20 minutes.
Cool.
Yeah. Very squirrel-like for me. Just going off like, oh, new old building. It reminds me of a Connecticut seaport up here.
Huh.
And it's right here in New York.
Very neat.
Yeah. So do we want to get started?
Sure. I guess if we'll just introduce ourselves. And then Lori, I just have a couple of things I need to go over based on the work plan. And I can explain that after we make our introductions.
Okay. You want me to start?
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm Lori Brocklebank. I'm with Davie Resource Group. I'm the area manager. And I've been working with the city of Olean for the past 6 months or so. We did the full tree inventory, and now we've developed a planting plan, a storm plan, and a management plan. So what I'm going to share with everybody tonight is the results of that inventory and go over some of the data that we have put together for you.
Great. Nate, if you want to go next.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Nate Morey, the local forester with the New York State DEC. I am here to answer any questions and help out any way that I can. I did the inspection for Davie's inventory, and I'll be working with you guys as you move forward with the management plan.
Oh, I'm not there, but I'm Sue Cooper, and I've been working with the city for 30 years.
We have
And
our,
I'm really excited about having a management plan and an inventory.
very nice. I'm Carrie Kerper. I'm the program coordinator for the City of Olean's Department of Community Development.
I'm Vernon Robinson, Alderman, Ward 6, and I'm sorry, I was eating dinner, so I just wanted to come and see what was going to be said. Thanks.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm going to mute and take my video off too.
Okay. All right, to jump right in, this is session 2 of our work in progress meeting. There will be a third work in progress public meeting that will be held at a later date after the management plan is completed. And that will be a presentation before the Common Council prior to their review and adoption of the plan. During the second work session, there are some items that we had explained that we would be hitting as some of our goals. So this inventory is complete. Lori is here to present on the findings. And some of the things that we had said is that we would provide the history for the city's forestry program. So I'm going to share my screen with that document. And it will actually be placed online next week. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a document outlining the history that the city forester Cooper prepared and her project partners. I'll just give a quick synopsis. Former John Ash, as an alderman at that time prior to him becoming mayor, had pursued a tree program. And then eventually in 1986, the Common Council pledged its commitment, and so the program began. And then Sue explains in the document about all the memorial trees that have been planted throughout the years in various parts of the city. And she also notes and outlines about the first tree inventory that was done in a paper book form back in 1986. And this will be our first inventory since that process was done at that time. And another thing that she points out in the history of our community forest program is how much it's demonstrated an effective and beneficial evolution over the years. And something else that I will need to note is another document, which is our educational component in our environmental justice component. There's different data that we have listed that she came up with. One thing I'd like to note is that inventory was conducted citywide in the areas that were originally proposed in city-owned lands, parks, right-of-ways, and especially it covered our environmental justice areas. And as you'll see, based on our HUD guidelines, there are 3 out of 4 census tract groups and 9 out of 15 block groups that are considered low income in the city of Olean. And these plans that Lori had mentioned earlier will also focus on those environmental justice areas, especially to find planting sites in those locations. And Sue has listed different benefits that the trees provide for health, safety, and economical benefits and drivers. And one thing that I really want to note is our smart growth. As you'll see, we note that our urban forest is an asset that adds value to all the properties and facilities in our city. And this inventory will enable us to more accurately manage and enhance the value of our urban and tree canopy. And I just want to note that one thing that we did when we were writing this application and in the plan, we realized that investing in the community forest benefits everyone and not just a privilege. And so that's another way that we're helping add an element of social justice to this project. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I will turn it over to Lori.
Sure. Thank you. I am going to hit share screen for myself. And then I will open this up fully. There. So I assume everybody can see the full screen now for the presentation.
Yes.
Perfect. So one of the things that we wanted to go over too is in that plan, there is a vision statement. So that vision statement is what you're seeing right now. It's the City of Olean's vision to promote and enhance tree conservation, forestry management practices of its parks and public street right-of-ways was a primary inspiration for this project. The vision will encourage a healthy forest development and enhance the overall tree population, which will improve aesthetics, value, air quality, public health, and increase park use. A community forestry management plan offers expertise in preserving and expanding urban canopy, so the environmental, economic, and social benefits it provides continue for generations. So really, this is what leads into the plan, what the plan's purpose is, and why the city has wanted this. So some of the things we did collect trees and stumps, and we did collect planting sites, but we were limited on those sites. So not every planting site is recorded in the city, just those in economic area, justice areas, and then some in outlying areas where we were able to pick those up as well. But we did collect the addresses, the GPS points, species, diameters, condition, primary maintenance. We looked at risk, we looked at overhead wires. Now, in the case of overhead wires, only 3-line primary wires were recorded. So if you had house drop wires or communication wires, those were not noted. And then we also looked at the gross space and dimensions. This is where we collected within the city. And of those areas, we collected roughly 5,357 sites, some being in the streets and some in the parks. Obviously, primarily on the streets were where we did collect, and we collected just a smidgen over about 1,000 planting sites. Right now, the way the city looks is we recommend a 10-20-30 plan. So only 20% of your species should be in one family or one area. And City of Olean has over 40% maple trees. Why is this important, and why do we make a point of this? That is because if a particular insect or disease comes in that specializes in that species, it could wipe out that entire population. So if something came in for the maples, such as Asian longhorn beetle, we're looking at over a 40% loss in canopy, and that's significant. So what we recommend moving forward is, as new trees are selected and planted, stay away from the maples, preferably. We also collected the health, the condition of the trees, so good, fair, poor, or dead. And primarily they did come in fair to good, which is a good kudos to what the program is doing, in that it is working and trees are very good condition, which is nice to see. We also look at the size classes of the trees. What you see on there is a recommended relative age. The reason why you see that downward slope is as trees get very large and very mature, they're also more expensive to maintain over time. So your budgets do increase as that population goes up. So if you have a gradual amount and, lower in the mature, more in that established and just maturing, your budgets are more consistent. But right now there are a lot of over mature trees over 24 inches in diameter. So what that means potentially also is in the next maybe 10, 20, 30 years, a lot of those are going to age out and start to decline greatly. So you're going to lose a lot of that canopy as well in that population. So if we can increase trees that grow that 18 to 24 inches and get those up in, then you won't be losing that canopy as a dramatic. One of the things they mentioned earlier was the benefits of trees. So, the trees really do provide a lot of benefit, be it environmental by decreasing air pollution, to capturing water in storm drains before it goes down, so our drinking water stays clean. Also, property values go up. More people are likely to buy a house with a nice tree in it than just a barren lot. So that does increase and does help. Socially, they do help with people healing. So 23% are less sick when they're around trees or look at trees. Also, less crime in those areas where you have trees, and people just feel less stressed overall. So they make people happy. So in the city of Olean, the primary benefit of the trees is that pollution removal, which is really important area where we do have different factories. different things going on, even a lot of our cars with the CO2 from those. So trees are providing yearly roughly $9,500 in benefits. Now, if you had to go out and replace all those great trees that are doing these benefits for you, then you're looking at close to $8.39 million would be the cost to replace all of those trees. So they do offer a great asset, but mainly too, also look at that avoided runoff. There is a dollar associated with it, $6,600. But what that really means is that avoided runoff is less water in your storm drains, less water that has to be treated, less pollution going in. So it does add up quite a bit. So recommended maintenance. What we're looking here is different types of maintenance. We have priority maintenance, so what we have to remove, what we need to prune, but also we have different proactive maintenance. So things that we can do now to help these trees stay healthy for the future. And for the city, we had looked at a 7-year cycle. When we look at high risk, so these are trees or branches that do need to be taken care of sooner than later. We do recommend within the 1-year period of time. There were 19 trees that need to be pruned and 32 that need to be removed. Those are the more your high risk. So usually they are your larger diameter trees as well. And then we have routine inspections. The reason why we want to do routine inspections is because even though we looked at those trees in June, by now there is potential that some of those trees have changed, such as limbs can break off. We've had some high winds and winter coming up, which means, ice damage, snow damage. So if we set up a cycle of every 7 years, you're visiting those trees, it does become more of a proactive than a reactive program. So setting up that cycle now will help set you up for success in the future. When we look also for maintenance at moderate and low risk, these are trees that no major defects or defects that can be corrected easily. When we look at those moderate risks, and we're looking at about 350 removals were recommended and identified. Low risk are 127. So a lot of those low risk too are more your smaller trees that just didn't quite make it, or smaller diameter trees that have outlived their lifespan right now. Then we get into young tree training, excuse me. For young tree training, these are trees that are less than 6 inches in diameter. So diameter is measured about 4.5 feet up from the ground. We do a circumference reading off of that. And for young trees, we want to look at them every 3 years. The reason for that is if we can correct defects early, the tree can heal. And then as they get bigger, now they have less defects and they don't fall into those high risk areas more than likely. So they're a healthier, better form, safer for our streets, could have a great shape to them then. So we want to keep up with a lot of those. That being said, we're looking at 253 trees annually. So that's a good number. And that also includes any new plantings that could be coming forward. And then routine pruning, just like the young trees, all of our other trees do need to be touched on. So if we do a 7-year cycle, we're looking at about 600 trees a year right now that do need to be looked at every year. Could they maybe just need a small snip? More than likely. They could be raised up off the sidewalks, off of driveways, away from homes. But they also could have any deadwood that's developed in them also removed at that time. And then when we start looking at then the tree plantings and stumps, we found 248 stumps within the city that do need to be removed. So roughly, I think it's about 36 was average number for every year that needs to be addressed if you want to keep up with that number for 7 years. But keeping up with that, but if we wanted to keep replacing trees, we really need to be looking at, 36, 31 trees still also planted every year. Ideally, obviously, we would like more to go up there to replace a lot of these vacant sites. When you have over 1,000 just in the environmental justice areas for vacant sites, it's going to take a while to fill all those spots, but that's just those areas, not the entire city. So funding, if it becomes available, start planting new trees, that number would change and be up a little bit higher. So right now you do have your tree inventory. So next thing is funding that program. So really what we want to stress here is, working together as a community to increase those budgets, to start looking at where your costs are. I mean, right now, knowing the numbers that Susan gave us and the kind of the numbers that we projected, there is a big difference between the two. But the city doesn't have to shoulder this all on their own. An option also is still these DEC grants. So you have done step 1 of doing the inventory, and then step 2 of having a management plan. The next step would be to start going after the maintenance grants. So those grants do help you out with plantings. Well, those will be removals and pruning, but then you can also go for a planting grant. So they'll give you some funding to plant new trees as well. Some reason I have more slides in here. Let me go up. So one of the other things, let me see if I can present from here. So for the maintenance schedule here, we do have roughly 159,000 was our first year to be looking at, and then 147, 113 roughly. And these are numbers based off of what you would need moving forward. So you see it's a little bit different than what you have already. So one of the things with the planting sites that we looked at, we also looked at in the planting plan itself is the different size classes for your plantings. So small, medium, large. Now the way these are referred to is what size tree you're going to be putting in that site. So a small tree would go something underneath a lot of the major power lines. You could have a large growing space, but if you have power lines, you still want a small tree so that tree doesn't grow up and then have to be pruned by the power companies to stay out of the wires. Versus a large tree is something you see more of a park setting potentially, or a large green space in front of a home that has no wires. So predominantly what we found within the city was that there's 836 small sites. So majority of the areas that we did inventory are small sites. So looking at small trees such as crab apples, serviceberries, tree lilacs, large variety of them, but looking at those areas. And to give you an idea too, though, I mean, this picture looks like, like a green blob if you don't know what you're looking at. But this is from the Forest Service, but all that white area there in the middle, that's where the city of Olean sits. And what that shows is the lack of canopy. So there's a huge potential that can be moving forward to re-canopy the community itself. So roughly, even if we did, 50 trees, that's close to $14,000 in cost, and that, would only give us 350. But if we go back 2 slides and see that we have over 1,000 already identified, this could take then 21 years to fill all those spots. But we want to see more green for that community as well. So, increasing funding is good, but this is a minimum to help give you an idea that you need about 50 minimum every year. The other thing that we looked at for the city was storm preparedness. So the storm preparedness plan really breaks down what we have there, what are wind susceptible. These are just some of the species that are wind susceptible. How many did we find there? Especially even red maples, 367 red maples are wind susceptible to breaking. So, we want to keep an eye on those during these windstorms. And as you're picking new trees to put in, it's kind of referring back to this list to see how it falls in. But within the storm preparedness plan, what we really want to look at is mitigation. So what activities can we reduce the effects of disaster, such as prunings and removals, updating our inventory, knowing what we have out there, what work needs to be done, and then preparedness, and then plan a response prior to the disaster. Now, talking to Susan Cooper is, she kind of has a plan already in place where the storm hits, we know which streets to go down, we know where to go, we know who to call, what contractors are coming in, calling National Grid to come in and help. Has a plan already there. Sue, you'll be greatly missed when you do decide to retire. So what this plan is taking all of her information and putting it on paper so that now somebody else can pick this up and know where those roads are. But one of the things for preparedness we do like to have, start seeing is that list of contractors. So the next person can pick up that list and know where to go. And then it's response. So what activities are happening? How, already start thinking about this. We're giving you the tools, say, here, this is what you need to be doing. We can't answer the questions for you, but you need to start having all the, the response information. Is it just the forestry that's going out to look at the sites? Is it engineering? Who else? Can you have zoning go out and look at them as well? Who else is helping out? And then the recovery. How do you return to normal? What are you doing with the waste? These are things to keep in mind and move forward so that you'll be much better prepared for when a major storm does hit. So there, that is all of my information. So
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. I'll hit stop share if that's okay.
Sure.
There.
Okay.
Any questions?
no,
Okay, good.
All right. Just to reiterate, we will get these documents posted, the ones that I did my share screen. And then, Lori, could we also get your presentation as well? We'll post that to the city's website next week, along with this recording of this meeting for those that were unable to attend. I know there were some that had RSVP'd and some things had come up, and but luckily we have this recording, so we'll still be able to share all this information. All right. Well, with that, thank you all so much for being here and participating.
And thank you all for all the work you've done.
We're happy to do it. So,
I'm so excited.
all right. Well, thank you all and have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a good
Take care,
evening.
guys.
Bye now.
Goodbye.